Okay, so that's it for part one of our Poi Juggling. Part one of our Poi Juggling series. So that's it for part one of our. Okay. Say the words in the right order. Hey there Internet, it's Colin here from Cascade Juggling. So a couple of videos ago we did a tutorial on how to make your own juggling poi, like this one. And I thought I'd expand on that today and do the first of what's going to be a series on beginner poi juggling. I normally teach this as a workshop at like juggling conventions, but it's normally about an hour, so rather than overloading you all at once, we're going to break it down into a few videos. Today we're going to look at, first of all, getting started with juggling your poi, and we're going to use the Pendulum Cascade to do this. So, let's get to it. Okay, so before we get started, there's a couple things that are going to help here. First of all, having the right type of poi. Ideally, you're going to want one with a nice like stiff rope or tether, and something with soft handles is going to be great. When I started juggling poi, I had really solid, heavy handles, and I used to come home from a session of practice with bruises up my arm. So soft handles, highly recommend that. If not, the alternative is wearing a jumper with like a good amount of padding around your wrists. This is also probably going to help. Another thing I would really recommend here is learning how to juggle balls first. It's not a prerequisite, you can go straight on to juggling poi. However, the technicalities of juggling them is exactly the same from balls to poi, but balls are loads easier. We already have a tutorial on this and I will link it down below. Okay, so throwing and catching one poi. First thing we're going to look at is the grip. I like to hold the tether between my thumb and my first finger here, and then I like the handle sticking out just below the base of my hand. This is my like default grip. I think it gives you a load of versatility in controlling the spin and the release of the throw, and is going to make it just, a nice like comfortable position for juggling them. One thing you're going to have to consider when juggling poi is the momentum of the object. So unlike other props, poi are really flexible. This makes it kind of hard to juggle, but also it means you're really going to have to pay attention to the momentum and the swing of the poi. This is going to be the main thing in getting you a consistent pattern. First thing we're going to do is work on just having a really smooth pendulum. You want this starting just on one side. We're going to go one hand and you're just going to swing back and forth, and you're looking for that point at the front where it goes 90 degrees parallel to the ground and kind of becomes weightless. This is where we want to release the throw from. So once you're happy, just swing back, forth, and it hits that point, and then you're going to release the throw. Do this, you're just going to open your hands and it's going to go up. To get a nice release on your throw, what you're going to be looking for is having the poi at 90 degrees, or like parallel to the ground, nice and straight. This is going to ensure that the throw goes straight up and down. If you release it too late, it's going to come back towards you, and if you're releasing it too early, it's going to go forward away from you. So making sure you get this like nice 90 degrees is going to be great. And I always watch just the ball of the poi. If that goes straight up and down, you're good and it should come back to your hand. It's just then working out the tweaks of getting the spin to be nice and consistent on one full spin. You can kind of flick with your thumb if you need a bit more spin, or you can kind of like flick with your fingers on the bottom of it if you need less spin. This is going to be a bit of just trial and error and just practice to get a nice solid throw. For catching the poi, you want to make a nice solid like platform with your hand for the rope to hit into. Quite often you're going to have to do this and then slide the handle back down to your hand. I like to also maybe put your elbow out a bit at the start. This creates a nice gap where the handle can go without smacking your arm. So before we move on, just practice this a little bit till you get a nice consistent throw and catch, both hands, and then one hand to the other hand. Okay, so getting two poi started now. What we're going to do is have one poi in each hand. You're going to have them at your sides, and you're going to start with just a nice consistent pendulum back and forth. Looking for that point at the front where the poi goes parallel to the ground, and you're going to get a nice consistent release. When you release the first poi, it's going to go up. Your other hand is going to continue the pendulum forward because it should have hit its like backmost point before then. When it hits that front point, it's also going to release, and the first poi should be coming down ready to be caught at that moment. This is going to take like a little bit of practice and a little bit of tweaking to get the timing right. The thing that is going to be really useful for adjusting your timing is this pendulum to the back. If you notice that most of the time it's not going like fully extended back out to 90 degrees at the back, and it's just coming like back as far as it needs to then come forward and get the next throw going. You can adjust the height of your throws and the swing of the pendulum to get a really consistent pattern here. And yeah, you're just going to have to do a little bit of trial and error yourself to find out where your rhythm is. And so once you've got this running and are happy, making sure you've learnt both sides of it, so starting right hand first, then left hand, and left hand then right hand, so you get both sides of your pattern. This is pretty much how it's going to feel once you actually get juggling them. And you only really have one more step to do here, which is the release. So for releasing 2 poi from one hand, which if you want to juggle 3 you're going to have to do, it's going to require a little bit of a grip change. So I still hold the first poi between my thumb and my thumb and first finger. Well, that's a bit complicated to say. But the handle, instead of being down at the bottom of my hand, is kind of actually up by where the thumb is. So it's actually inside your fist if you close it. The second poi is going to sit between your pinky and your ring finger. So to actually release the poi, you're going to start them in this grip. Both in the same hand, hanging down. The one in the pinky is going to throw first, and the one in your thumb and first finger grip is going to have to do a spin when this throw happens. It's a little bit weird, but this helps keep the timing much better and is going to make just everything a lot easier for you, no matter which pattern you're going to start juggling. So to be able to run this like cascade consistently once you've got the release, you're going to have to think about the height of your throws and the timing of the whole pattern. As you can see in here, we don't actually have a lot of height, so I'm having to keep everything quite low and solid. But if you start bigger, it's going to make it easier because it's just going to slow everything down as you juggle. As far as adjusting the height on this goes, the height of your juggle is actually going to be really dependent on your poi. If you've got heavy handles, they're going to rotate faster, so your juggle is going to be a bit lower. I have really light handles, so generally everything goes a bit loftier for me, and I have to force a bit more spin when I want to keep it low. So it's just finding the balance, and every kind of set of poi has a height and a speed that they want to be juggled at, so you're going to have to work that out with your set. One of the best practices I think you can get into for juggling poi, or actually learning juggling in general, is setting yourself like goals and not just going until you muck up sort of thing. So if you want to start by doing 3 throws and 3 catches and then just stopping, that's great. Once you're happy with that, move on to 4 throws, 5 throws, 6 throws, and build it up slowly. I find what a lot of people do at the start is they just want to go and see how long they can go for until they make mistakes, and then it actually ends up with them learning bad habits. And because you end up going all over the place trying to correct your mistakes, which eventually you can do, but it's way easier if you just start yourself doing the right thing and learning the right thing. So trying to get those 3 throws really consistent and solid, and then 3 throws back from the other hand, consistent, solid. Practicing the release in both hands is also a really good way to do this, but yeah, I'm terrible with my left, so I always release from the right. Okay, so that's it for part 1 of our beginner poi juggling series. We start here with Pendulum Cascade because I think it's the easiest one to wrap your head around, but we're going to do probably the reverse beat cascade in the next video, which I think is probably a bit more stable once you get it running, but definitely a little bit harder to start with. So if you want to come join us for that, hit the subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.